So
moment.
I know it's very intense, nerve-wracking.
Welcome, everybody. The middle of February. I was reading how February is the new January, and I think that I do agree with that
So I
because it.
know it's really.
Ooh,
Sorry,
that's
that was
okay.
me.
It's okay. Throw me off my game. But yeah, so I was reading that February is like the new January, and I agree with that because it's so hard to do so many things in January. But I feel like February has been nice, busy, great month for reflection. So thank you for joining us for our February meetup where we're going to talk about golden nuggets. We decided as a group, I think 2 months ago, that this is something we wanted to talk about, meaning what are the things that work really, really well for you with Ecamm that just helps make your life better. And I wanted to share a tool, but before we share and go into the content, wanted to welcome. I think Jeremy, hello. I didn't get a chance to say hello to you yet. And then James, if I'm not mistaken,
Howdy.
this might be your first time joining with us, right, James?
It is. It sure is. Yep.
Awesome. Welcome. Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome. And so, in general, and Jeremy, really good to have you with us again. And Ed, welcome back too. Sometimes, whenever you can come, it's great. And when you can't come, it's all recorded and saved on the Ecamm for Educators YouTube channel that David is nice enough to handle for us. So the content is always available there, including any past times that we've chatted.
Hey, Miss
I,
Tatiana,
yeah.
real quick, just wanted to put out there for people that you can see I've added meters to our meeting. In YouTube land, if you could land your volume somewhere between 20 and 24, that's usually the sweet spot. And it's the moving number on the left. Thanks.
Okay, so let's see what happens when I talk. I go
So you have
down
to talk for a little bit so it
right,
can
right, right,
register.
right, right. Right. It's like I feel like I'm being scored or something right now, but okay, that seems pretty good. When I'm talking, typically, it's just let me know. But so where were we? Ah, yes. So our golden nuggets, things that work together, and we have in the past introduced ourselves to be able to get to know a little bit about each other, but we also want to make sure we leave enough time. So what I wanted to ask this time is, can you tell us about yourself in one sentence? So we each get a small turn to share. So I'll start and then I'll pass it over to David, and David, you pass it on to the next person. Hello, everybody. I'm Tatiana, and I am an adjunct professor, university lecturer at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And I also have a platform, Tatiana Teaches, where I love to talk about active learning, technology, visuals, classroom belonging, and student engagement. David.
I'm David,
Unmute.
and I'm not nearly as talented as Tatiana.
Yeah, right.
And I'm passing it to Darren.
Hi, my name is Darren, and I teach high school literature by day and by afternoon, evening, and late nights, early mornings. I'm a church consultant and content creator.
All right, Darren, we'll go over to Ron next, and then Phil after that.
My name is Ron, and I am a retired teacher, but I still have two daughters that are teaching, so I want to pass along any information I can get to help them.
Beautiful. Keeping it in the family. I love it. Phil.
Okay, hi there. I am a software, I deal with software, so I sell software, pretty eclectic piece of software into the print industry. And I find myself teaching on that pretty rarely, but I still do. And I like that kind of trick teaching side. And I do a lot of kind of YouTube channel type teaching stuff as well. So that's it. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome, Phil.
Thanks.
You're getting a call right now for that software. Ed, and then Jeremy.
Hey, I teach songwriting at Concordia University online and also coach worship keyboard players around the world.
Awesome, Ed. Welcome. Jeremy.
Hey, I am a Ecamm moderator. Been using it for a couple of years now. I've been in tech, been in software since the VIC-20 was around. So that, I've been doing this for a little while. I started out as an instructor for Autodesk teaching 3D design, CAD software, animation software.
And I have been involved in that pretty much my entire life. I took a little detour and started a brewery, but then the pandemic hit and that business plan went out the window. So here I am back in it in technology and enjoying my time learning Ecamm and getting to meet all these people here. So that was way more than one sentence, but that's what you get because I didn't know you were going to spring this on me. So
And you also have a YouTube channel where you teach Ecamm. So I definitely encourage you
I
guys
do.
to check that out if you don't know about that. James and then Steven.
Hi, I'm James Cuning. My teaching role is as an adjunct at Metro State in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I teach legal tech related classes to undergrad and grad students. And my day job is I'm the director of innovation for a law firm.
Do you say legal tech?
Yeah, I teach classes, well, technology issues related to law. So I teach classes mostly in electronic discovery and then computer laws.
Wow.
My sister-in-law is working, she works at Google, and she's working on a specific LLM model for law.
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
it's all we spend our time doing these days.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting. All right. Well, welcome, James and
thank you.
Steven. Last but certainly not least. And we can't hear you, Steven. I think you're muted in Zoom.
Yeah, I was muted out of Zoom, but not in Zoom.
Okay.
That'll never stop being funny. So yeah, I empower people to master money. I'm based in Montreal, and that's kind of irrelevant only because everybody around the world can benefit from the same thing. I did hear a moment ago Ed mention Concordia. I don't know if that's my Concordia. Is that Montreal Concordia or a different Concordia, Ed?
Is the Irvine campus.
Oh, you see, Montreal's famous for Concordia and also the Molson School of Business. So didn't they? And you mentioned keyboards, something about keyboards. So I wasn't sure, was that music or was that typing?
Music. Yeah.
Wonderful. My daughter went to Berkeley in Boston and graduated a couple of years ago. So maybe we have some things to chat about. But there you go, folks.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. And I like for us to chat a bit because you never know who you're going to connect with or want to connect more. So please feel free to engage with each other outside of this time. And we have the hashtag educators inside Discord. You guys can also communicate via Facebook if you're there inside the Ecamm community. But absolutely, please do keep the connections going throughout the month. But back to our topic for today. Golden nuggets, things that in combination that work with Ecamm. I'll start because I did think about this, and my favorite, well, there's so many, but obviously I'm not going to be the only person talking today. I love to use Ecamm with Loom, and just show of hands, how many of you know what Loom is? Loom. Anybody know Loom? Okay, good. We got a couple. All right, and if you don't, that's okay. What Loom is a video recording tool that has a plugin for Chrome, an extension for Chrome, or it could also be used as a standalone app. So let me just explain how I use it and how it helps me with my students. So you know how we can record anything in Ecamm, but the Ecamm file sizes are going to be giant. What Loom does is I screen record me in Ecamm, so I can still use Ecamm to control all the windows. I've got me in one window, screen sharing in another, and I'll record with Loom, and it within seconds sends a video to my students. So a way that I use it is when I want to provide feedback on their assignments. Like recently, my students just delivered a podcast yesterday, and they submit an outline for that. I don't want to just write to them in the outline. I want to talk them through and show them how I'm grading. So I will pull up their assignment on screen. And so let me do screen share. Okay, so I will record my Ecamm window via Loom, and I'm talking to my students. Their submission will be here on the left, the rubric is on the right, and I'm talking them through this thing, the other thing. I'm saying all the things, and Loom, once I hit stop, which you can see my Loom plugin right here. So I will set it so that it's recording my Ecamm window only with no camera. I obviously cannot turn the camera on, right? It's already built in. And then within a few seconds, I'll have the link that I send over to my students. They'll have a transcript of it immediately that they can read. And I don't have a big giant file that I have to download and send over to them. The bonus part of this is that I have a Loom account for free because I'm an educator. So if you're interested in that and something like that is helpful to you, look up Loom educator application or educator discount. And while other people are talking, I'll try to see if I can find the original link. But for me, Ecamm and Loom and teaching are a really beautiful combination, and I can send videos super fast immediately that are accessible to them right away without the download, upload, giant file size process. So that is my share. Would anybody like to go next or have a question about that?
I have a question. Have you used Zoom Clips at all?
I haven't yet. No.
It sounds to me like it's this. I haven't used Loom. It sounds to me like it's the same idea as Loom. It's just through Zoom. What I like about Loom, it sounds like, is that because it's a Chrome plugin, it can just kind of sit there and you don't have to, like, I have to open Zoom when I want to do clips and stuff like that. But it also creates a link that I can just forward to people. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. And I do have a paid Zoom account, and I saw that it's a feature on there, but I have not used it. So that's also another possibility to explore. Thank you, David. Okay. Stephen.
On the same topic, but slightly different, is when I want to evaluate what somebody is doing, as I'm a presenter, not only an educator, but I also present on stage, etc. When I think people are doing a really great job, I use Ecamm to record them live into Ecamm like a shared screen. And I then export that through Ecamm directly to Descript. And I extract from there, even though I could technically do it in Zoom. They're not always on Zoom. Sometimes they're on meetings, and sometimes they're on different platforms, and sometimes they're on YouTube, and you don't have the capability of doing these things. So this way I extract it into Descript. I take my transcript. Now the next step for me is I upload that into a very detailed analysis GPT that I wrote, or customize is a better word. And I ask, the GPT is designed to extract the good and the bad from that presentation. So I'm not recording it for the purpose of repurposing or reusing. I'm recording it from the personal point of being educated myself as to what things might turn people off or what things might excite people. But I do go through, I do go through the Ecamm window, if you will, by sharing it. I used to have to use loopback and things like that to be able to capture the audio. I just find that Ecamm is just turn it on, and with the new audio selection features, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with, but where you can turn on and off your audio. How is best to describe that? Your system audio, whatever's running, it doesn't have to be all system audio. You can select whatever it is you want. For example, if you're running YouTube on a browser window, you could select that audio and nothing else. So anyways, hopefully that was clear what I was sharing.
It was clear.
Maybe not so clear for me. If you could say it one more time, Stephen. So you're using Ecamm to record.
Yeah, so I've got Ecamm open. Yeah, so let's say,
or wherever they're presenting or speaking.
Right, and I'm sharing the window in Ecamm. So I see the window full screen in Ecamm. And this way, I didn't mention I'm recording, but I'm pressing the record button and I'm recording. I don't really need the video, but I am recording the audio. Maybe one day we will be able to use the video because one day some form of AI I'm sure it exists today, but I'm not sure which one, but can watch it and give you feedback on it. That would be nifty too if something exists now, but it will soon, probably by 6 o'clock tonight, something will come up. But so I record it. I record it and I take that recording. And of course, there's an automatic interface into Descript if it's still there. I think it is. And I drop it into Descript, and then Descript pulls out the transcript for me. Then I take that transcript, put it into ChatGPT, into a custom GPT that I created that extracts the good, the bad, and the ugly and gives me some things I may not be thinking about. So I look at the psychology behind presentations, and I'm very interested in what was said, how it was said. Are people purposely doing certain things, anchoring other things, etc.?
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
And by the way, Tatiana, the audio thing that you were just talking about. So if you go into your Ecamm preferences in audio and you have your broadcast system audio, if you have that turned on to all the time, which I don't usually do that, but then over here in your audio levels, you now have the option to not send all system audio, but you can actually choose what source you want to send, which is really sweet. Really. So if you want to have, for example, you want to send, I don't know, Safari because you're playing a video, but you don't want to send Chrome because that's where all the dings and the do's and the hoo-has from your calendar and everything else come from. You can choose just Safari, which is a really nice feature.
Yes, that is, and that's that tip alone I think is worth showing up today. So that's a really good tip and a reminder. That is, I actually do that when sharing music and things. So that's a helpful tool to pop in so that you know. And then you could also just mute all system audio too on certain scenes if you don't ever want that to happen too. So that's a really great Ecamm tip. Thanks, David. Yeah, Stephen, your comment reminded me that I really want to create a GPT to help assist with grading. I've been for certain elements. Obviously, I still have to assess and I provide feedback, but I want chat to help me make it a little bit faster. So I think creating a specific GPT for that would be awesome.
If you're interested, so I did something like that for my teachers. I created a progress report. Teacher comments, ChatGPT. By the way, these are like, you don't have to code or anything for these. It's like the easiest, dumbest thing in the world. So I have it prompted, click here to craft a thing, and then it tells them what to do. Sure, please provide the student's name and grade. So let me try and think of who I have in here. PK4. And then it's going to look at the data that I've put into it because I uploaded a bunch of stuff, and you can see that I have these different areas, and I defined these, right? So let's do math, and all you have to do is, it tells me just put in the code, and now it's going to look at her scores in the math thing that I uploaded, and it's writing a comment for me, which is, and I told it, like, I want you to focus on the future and how she can grow and da. It's just kind of amazing.
Wow. That is something else. Wow. So there's hope. Maybe I won't have to spend hours and hours and hours grading in the future. Okay. Thank you, David. Coming back over to you guys. What other magical combinations? So far we have Ecamm and Loom. We have Ecamm and Zoom. We have Ecamm and Descript. Ecamm and AI GPTs, artificial intelligence types here. So what else, guys? What else? And Randall, welcome. No problem. And I know, Sunny, you're driving, so just be safe. But yeah, welcome everybody. Other magical golden nugget combinations that you guys love.
So I've been using. Oh, go ahead.
No, you, because you got that.
Oh, no worries. So I love Set App, which is monthly subscription based for Mac, and there are a number of different apps I love to use there. And sometimes when I'm a little bit too lazy with working with the script, I love using one of the apps called VidCap. So if there's YouTube, I used it last week. There was a short video I used for my freshman. We were talking about hashtags in literature, kind of a fun activity, pretending to be a character in a novel that we're reading. So I showed Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake's hashtags, but the YouTube video did not have captions. And I have several students who are slightly hard of hearing, but also I like to show captions in order for people to kind of reinforce the auditory and visual as well, because sometimes they're sitting a little bit further away from the projection screen. So it took all of 1 minute to use that app in order to create the captions, and then I was able to show that video. So although it's not technically connected to Ecamm per se, sometimes in the process of doing videos and recording videos, again, I just don't want to use the script. I want something like really basic, just captions, and not have to worry about much editing. So I love using it for that purpose.
Thank you, Darren. I thanks to Doc Rock and Paul, I also have set app, and I was wondering what other tools are really good. And I'm looking at VidCap right now, and I was going to ask, can you customize the captions? And it does
Yes.
say customize text, font, and color.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good tip. Yeah, right now I'm at the stage where I'm paying $30 a month for Descript as part of the legacy plan from their original plans, and I just really wish that Final Cut Pro would have a similar feature where you can edit from the script and also be able to add captions, because I've been using Final Cut Pro to edit since, I don't know, 2010, but they're just not there yet. And so I feel like I'm paying for just these two things that I need Descript to do. Good tip, though. Yes, we could probably have a good conversation about our favorite set app apps as well. But Phil, I think you're ready to go next, right?
Yeah, kind of. I had a few things in mind, but as we're really talking about Ecamm related stuff, obviously running a business, I think we all have a few extra tools in the background. I could always talk about a couple of my favorites, but relating to Ecamm, I tend to find that what I can do, and I'll try and show you this if I just flip my screen over here. Let me just see if, yeah, so you can probably see this window. You'd need to get it big, but I tend to, the way I've got Ecamm, I've got a Mac Studio. Let's try and give you the picture. I've got a Mac Studio in front of me with a couple of screens. But when I'm training on my software, I often find it easier to run the software on my laptop, which is just behind me. And you can very easily within the Mac system share the screen onto, if you've got two screens in your setup, you can share the screen of let's say a MacBook Pro very easily. And you would do that. You just open the Finder window and you see all this. Can you see these? You can probably follow my.
We see your Finder window that has.
Do you see a cursor that allows me to point?
Black and white. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see a range of different connected devices, and you might be able to see the MacBook Pro the MacBook Pro that's there. I've just got a circle running around it there. So that's my MacBook Pro. It's an old one. It's just an Intel 2019 one, not an M1 or any of the more recent ones. But what you'll also see is up in the top, you've got this share screen button, and that will come up whatever Mac you connecting your locations locally. And I could just hit the share screen, and it won't fit perfectly because I didn't plan to do this, but that is from my my laptop essentially. So I might be able to bring this down to a smaller level. Let's just drag it down a touch and across.
Can you back up? How did you get the list of computers in your Finder?
Okay, let me back up. You go to the Finder, so it's a new Finder window. All right, and in the new Finder window, there is a locations option, if you see that, and that locations allows you to add all of the Macs that are on your network.
How do you add them? Where do you add them from?
They should be self-discovered. Most
That's
of them
what I
should
was
be
thinking.
self-discovered.
Bonjour would actually theoretically show them. There are some preset settings that you might have to go through, make it discoverable, make your file sharing. I've actually done a video on my YouTube channel about how to, if it's not showing up, how to get them to show up. But all of mine do, and they just naturally sit there whenever you start them. Once you've been able to add them in, and I think it's hard to kind of go through the short way of adding them, but they should show up just as Bonjour computers. Go into the settings on each Mac and make sure that they're available, and then you'll be able to go in and literally, if you hit a Mac that has any Mac, you'll see there's a share screen option at the top, just up here.
And Phil, let me ask you, do you ever have any problems with it disconnecting midway through, or is it very stable every time you've done it?
100% stable, never had any problems. And of course, this is going to be a similar technology to NDI, if anybody knows what NDI is, but it's Mac's own built-in version of that. I've never, ever had a loss of connection or anything.
That is a really great tip, and it will actually help me because I'll do the same thing when I'm demoing a tool to the students who are mostly 98% going to be on a laptop. I want to demo it on a laptop. So I'll bring my laptop, but I've been connecting it directly to my Mac through an HDMI cable and then bringing it into Ecamm as a separate camera source. So this makes it a few fewer steps in there.
Yeah,
Tatiana, that's generally a more stable connection, what you're talking about, because you're not doing packet exchange. It's an HDMI cable, so it's a full digital signal. I did the entire tutorial series exactly the exact same way you described, and I had the exact same Mac. I got a 2019 Intel Mac, and I tried NDI. I tried the screen sharing functionality, and it worked. But what I was seeing was latency, especially if you were playing back videos. If you had content that was playing in the other Mac that you're sharing from the screen on which you're viewing on your presentation Mac, certain YouTube videos, the refresh would be it's not designed for, doing live streaming, full 30 frames a second. You're not going to see that. Hardwired, it might be a little bit better.
I'm not quite sure. So Jeremy, are you saying that this is the better option? Because I find this is superb. It's just flawless.
I actually, in all honesty, for stability, if you're, for instance, if you're using, anytime you go wireless, and Doc espouses this all the time, there's that you can pretty much see it for yourself whenever you're wireless over your network, if there's any chance for any kind of interference or traffic. And this is why NDI needs to be on its own separate subnet, is because anytime there's cross traffic, there's, especially with wireless, you're going to get potential hangups for latency, whereas a hardwired connection is going to give you the best performance. So it either works like what you're doing here, Phil, right now, or what Tatiana, what you did, is just as good. You're going to see almost the exact same result.
Well, this is wireless. Obviously, my laptop, show you,
Right,
is not connected wired at all, and it's totally stable. I fly through all my software. But one of the great advantages, and the reason I do it, is because in Ecamm, it's not really brilliant yet for zooming into an area if you
correct.
are screen sharing, whereas I can very easily kind of select an area and zoom in, and you can see it zooming into that area onto the laptop. Because I'm screen sharing the laptop, I can then zoom into that area of the screen. You see what I mean? So,
Yep.
so that it's really as much for that functionality as anything that I really like that feature.
By the way, if anyone is curious about how to get this to work, I just did a little deep dive here. So you need to, on the computers that you want to share from, you need to go into your settings, search for screen sharing, and then you'll see here screen sharing, and it's under your content and media. So you can file share, media share, screen share, or content coaching. Once you click that on, then you should see that that computer show up in your locations. So if you're not seeing it natively, I don't remember if I turned that off or if it's off natively, but there you go.
Thanks for that, David. I didn't turn it on because as soon as if you set it in Ventura, then you upgrade it naturally goes time and again. Do you know what I mean? It's just so it's kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I do that's specifically related to training and software training, which is what I do.
Great.
That's very cool.
Very cool. Wow.
Really
Man,
smart
the,
too.
the first 30 minutes of today's session have been fabulous. Thanks so much, Phil, and definitely worth exploring. And I mean, wireless, wired, we'll just have to experiment and see how this goes.
Hey,
But
you know what
maybe-
though, Tatiana? I would even forget that. Just take the wired wireless thing aside for the moment. If people have been upgrading their computers, I always tell them keep that old crappy computer and use that as your content computer. Whether you do it this way or whether you just grab yourself an what do you call it, a cam link or one of those video encoders, and you connect it that way. It's so convenient to be able to have your content on a different computer and then bring that in as a camera source rather than having to clutter up your screen with a screen share. So either way, using that second old computer, what a great idea, Phil.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Wow. Fabulous. Good stuff today. Ed.
This may be, it's not quite as nerdy as those things we just discussed, but I teach songwriting a lot, and I have found that, I think I set up a scene. Yeah, I use GoodNotes on my iPad, and that lets me create I have a document here let's say that's their lyric they've written, and I can, well, my pencil must be dead. Shoot. Well, I can annotate on this screen, and unlike Video Pencil, as I understand it, this is native. This document with the markups is in GoodNotes, so I can send the student a PDF when I'm done, and they have all those notes instead of trying to find it on the recording or something. So it's a huge help for what I'm doing. And I also have some pages set up where I can, if we were discussing music and I wanted to, let me find it. Here, I'm almost there. Like, I don't know if you can see my manuscript paper now, but I can write, my pens must be dead. But anyway, I can write real time. I can write a melody out for them or give them a rhythmic suggestion all in real time with this. And again, it becomes something I can send the student after the lesson. So it's a great help.
That's
Right.
awesome that you found that. I remember that was a source of frustration that Video Pencil was writing on the screen, not on the app. And
Right.
I'm so glad that you found this. That's amazing.
And it's one of those apps that syncs between all your devices. So I'm writing on my iPad, but the desktop version of it's also updating, and it's just great. Yeah.
That is pretty awesome. And we did
Can you
see-
clarify? Are you writing on an iPad but sharing the iPad screen, or
Yes, it's just
sharing...
it's a camera source, and I'm so sorry I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
get
yeah.
my pencil to cooperate. Let me see, maybe that's why.
You should be able to write just with your finger even, I think.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I think Bluetooth's off. Sorry about that. But so your question, I'm sharing the iPad as a camera source, and then I can place that wherever I want on the screen. And I've also, and I've created some templates in GoodNotes where the aspect is the 9:16. So if I've got manuscript paper for music, I know that they'll be able to see everything on the screen instead of me writing too low on the iPad and they don't see it. So, yeah.
which is really awesome. I mean, I love Video Pencil, but I find myself like quickly taking a screenshot to be able to save something to upload it to the class notes later rather than your way because I really like being able to see exactly
I
where I'm
can never
writing.
get Video Pencil to work, and I've emailed and chatted with the guy for a couple of years, and it's just never reliable. So that's why GoodNotes is
Oh,
fantastic, especially if I'm coaching music and it's a Bach piece or something. I want to circle a certain measure. It's so awesome to know that I'm going to land on the right spot with my highlights. So that's my nugget.
absolutely. Thank you, Ed. And that's really good for us to have these because and I can see how this will work well in class too because you're just writing over the entire note. So you know where you're writing and you've got it framed in that scene so you know exactly where it's going to go too.
Right.
So
And one thing I'll mention is I have found that, for instance, right now this document I'm showing is an 8.5 by 11. It's a bit cumbersome to see all that on the other end. So I've created scenes where it's just the top half of the page, and then the next scene is the bottom half, so they can see each more legibly. So it's great.
mhm. And I'm wondering as an alternative because Apple Notes has really stepped up their game. I just recently made a video about migrating from Evernote to Apple Notes because it's so good. And I'm just wondering, I've never tried to upload a custom background to Apple Notes, like your music paper,
Hmm.
if that's possible to do inside of Apple Notes, which also syncs across all of our devices.
And can you add it? Can you circle a item on the page? Huh.
Yes, because I was doing handwriting on it, just doing some like branding exercises for a class I'm taking, but and that comes built in, but I don't know if it does everything that GoodNotes does for you currently. But
Yeah.
that's another exploration tip. Very
I
good.
Right.
don't. I don't think you can. I'm looking at it now. It's an interesting question. I don't think you can upload custom back. I mean, they have, I think, built-in backgrounds that you can choose. Oh, wait a second. Here we go.
You could
Change
place
the
an
line or grid style for handwriting on this note. It's interesting. Tatiana, I don't think you can open up.
You can drag a picture in at least, and that could be if you can write on that image, you could do it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, in Apple Notes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it
Hmm.
wouldn't be
I'll have
set
to
as
test.
background, but
I'll have to test this out. But
interesting.
is how much is GoodNotes? Do you remember, Ed?
It's a subscription. I think I want to say like, I don't know, $7. It's pretty cheap for a year. And I think they even have a lifetime deal, but I have just found it fantastic.
Okay. Thank you. And Stephen, I see your hand is up. Go for it.
So you mentioned before that you were struggling to take a screenshot. I just got myself into muscle memory of Shift Command G in in Ecamm because when I use Video Pencil, I want, like you said, I want a kind of a record of what was there. And but I also use, depending on the application, I also use, like was just said a moment ago, a different app. I forget which app I'm using. I'd have to fire it up, but it's an iPad Notes app that I also screen share, and that is different because that's writing directly into the app. So when I do my copies, I do that. I just do a Shift Command G, and I get that screen. So it's got everything my Video Pencil puts on, and it does record it. So that seems to solve that little problem. And then I have another thing to add when you're ready for the next tip, which I never mention to people because I use it. Um, well, it's just using LUTs. And I just think sometimes we forget that LUTs are available within Ecamm. And
Hmm.
I'm not the type, I don't do any type of production or whatever, but I have found that I can get a better quality image by having a preset. And then instead of going into all of the camera effects and sliding everything, what I can do is I can slide my LUT to add more or less. And the LUT I'm using right now is very subtle. If I go 0 LUT, you might have noticed a difference. I can see it on my screen. This is with no LUT applied. This is with the same LUT applied at 100%. And this is the LUT where I normally keep it, which is right about 70% of that particular
Can
LUT.
you turn it?
So
Can you turn it to zero one more time? I just made you big on my screen so I could see if I see a
yeah,
difference big. I
I
didn't see
should
it
whiten
small.
up a little bit. So again, that's 100%. That's 0. So you'll see the purple in the background change a little bit. And you'll also see this is at 0. You'll see my skin around here get a little bit too white for my liking, and basically we'll bring it up to here. So now other LUTs are much more dynamic. Like there's cinema LUTs, and there's like we could
Sure.
make it look like anything we want. There's so many that are downloadable for free
Mm-hmm.
to play around with and see if any of those settings, depending on the environment that you're in, if there's a benefit to it one way or the other. I encourage people to play around with that, because I think unless you're actually into that type of what do we call it, cinema, or that level, that just everyday people that are just doing educational stuff, we don't think about. So I encourage people
Sure.
to play around with it.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Stephen. And James, I know your hand's up. I'll come to you in just a quick sec. LUTs, in case anybody does not know what we're talking about, are the abbreviation for lookup tables, LUTs, which is basically a video filter, like a camera filter. If we were to apply a filter to a photo, it's the same concept of filter to video. So it would change brightness, change things. We can have it give different tones, different looks, and all of that to our cameras. So if you're ever interested,
And
I'd
it's
love to
and
know
it's
what you
found
think.
just for people. I won't go on to the behind the scenes, but anybody looking for it, it's found under your camera effects, under your picture settings at the very bottom. It'll say select LUT, and then there'll be nothing there. When you click on that, it's going to go to a Finder window where you can upload. So what I do with all of my broadcast stuff, I have a separate directory called Streaming Resources, and I have a folder called LUTs. I throw them all in there in different subfolders if I need them. I rename them because they have weird names that you won't remember what the heck they are. I renamed something that's familiar to me, that'll make sense. And it's just nothing more than as if you had slid all of your individual picture settings, like your brightness, your temperature, and stuff like that, your saturation, whatever you want to call it. If you slid all those and you save them, you can save them into a table that can then be applied at just the click of a button instead of having to save those individually. And they're pre-done ones that look just amazing depending on your environment.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for the tips there, Stephen. And James, your hand is up.
Yeah, I don't, since this is my first time here, I mean, I don't know the writing on the screen thing though. Like one of the things when I'm teaching in person, I tried to set the tone that anything I put on the board is anything I take the time to write on the board is probably important enough that you students should write it down. So I do that in class too. And I mean, I just use the iPad to just write on, on my screen. Just using a green screen. I mean, I don't even know I don't know if this is something that you all are familiar with. But then what I do then since I have everything I wrote down, I mean, you can see like just all this stuff from the different classes I've had is all in this one file. I now know, like at the end of the semester, I know every single thing that I wrote on the quote unquote board through the time that I was teaching.
Yes, thank you, James. And there are so many ways to approach telestration. So writing on the screen, there's so many different ways to go about it. Yours is one of the ways. And in fact, I think it used to be the only way we could do it until some other apps came on the scene. But what exactly are you using to write with?
I
What
use a
app are you
program
using?
called Contexts. It's just like it's an infinite canvas like vector
He just
program.
Yeah, that's
created, right, he just created it with a green background. He's just keying it out in Ecamm.
Yeah.
That's
right.
what all
But
of
what
us used to do. Yeah.
exactly. But what I really like about that is saving,
It
say, the whole
saves.
semester's
Yeah.
notes on there, which I don't have. I have each separate image and I upload it to that particular module for that particular week. But I like this infinity idea that could be helpful for referencing too.
That would actually be an amazing feature request to Michael for Video Pencil. It's a really interesting idea. James, I'm happy to share with you about the tool that the rest of us are talking about, Video Pencil.
Yeah,
other
I've not
time.
heard of that, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will I'll investigate.
I'll pop the link in
And
the chat for you, but I'm happy to meet with you about that if you ever want.
yeah, definitely take advantage of time with David. And then also we talked about Video Pencil, was it December? I want to say our
Yeah, I think
most
you're
of
right.
our
He was in.
session
Yeah.
most of our session was December, but obviously there's tons of stuff that you can you can look up, but we did have him, Michael. Yeah, it was December, the December meetup. Michael Forrest, the developer of Video Pencil, which is a paid tool, and so definitely explore, check it out, and meet with David.
Will do.
All
Thanks.
right, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have some golden nugget combination tools, tips on their hearts burning that you want to share with us? Because we'd love to hear it.
I mean,
If everybody's gone quiet, sorry about that, David.
No, go ahead.
if everybody's got-
When we get to the boring part, when I was talking, and I'm happy to share.
Okay, I've got a very quick, funny one, and it's definitely Ecamm, and it's an Ecamm. It's basically just an overlay, and one of the things that we use Video Pencil for, although I've got problems with my Video Pencil again, is pointing out things, and if you make yourself a very simple arrow, and if you've got a Stream Deck, you can bring that arrow on and off the screen. So I'll do the same now. If you're looking at my screen, I've got a green arrow, and I can now drag that around the window and point at things, and it's just very easy to do that in the Ecamm screen, and it's just basically a transparent arrow, and you can make those in Keynote or any kind of app that has a transparent background functionality. You can add an arrow. I've got a red one as well that I can bring in if it's a contrast to a particular color, and they're just on my Stream Deck, so you just bring those in and drag them around. So there it goes, a very simple Ecamm overlay.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Which reminds me of something that I saw somebody do, and then I implemented in my class. And I'm not in the right profile, and we can't switch profiles when you're using Ecamm for Zoom, which I am using Ecamm for Zoom, so I can't switch profiles to show you. But I was showing a social media timeline in my social media class. So I had all these circles of all the different tools and when they came up. And what I did was I was a tiny circle on the camera on my scene too. And as we went around the timeline, I moved with it. So I'm dragging my face around to keep visual interest, visual engagement, but also to show where I'm moving. So that's another really great thing that reminded me of what you're saying too, Phil. But I like the idea of having highlighters, like I call certain highlighters on the screen to draw your attention to different things. So that's awesome. Great tip, and very easy for us to do. And also press of a button right on your Stream Deck, it shows up, and then we go to our main Ecamm window to place it where we want, right? Cool. David, I think you were going to add something, right?
Yeah, but wait, I'm busy downloading tools that people were just talking about.
Okay.
No, I'm here. So I just want to add, so another, okay, hold on. So let me see if this is going to work. Yeah, it did. Mm-hmm. So there's another tool called Screen Brush, which is, you don't even need an iPad for it, but arrow tool. So basically you start it with a hotkey. For me, it's Control Tab, and then I can kind of like draw arrows, or right now it's reversed. I don't know why. Let's see. Now I've got the brush tool. So, and this, I'm doing this all just with my mouse. So it's, if you just want things temporarily, it's a nice little tool. There's what is that? Okay, rectangle tool. So, and there are all these tools. You just change this by doing Control 1 is brush, Control 2 is arrow. I don't know why it's reversed. That's so weird. 3, or you can change the line tool, and then 3 is the rectangle tool. And you can see they all disappear. I'm pretty sure you can change then there's a text tool also. I don't know what that does. Oh, it puts text in. This is text. And then the things kind of jump away after a while. I don't know. Interesting. But that's Screen Brush. But that actually
is that a free tool?
Yeah, I think so. It has in-app purchases. It's in the Mac App Store. I kind of use this as a backup, like, or if I don't have Video Pencil running or something, I just want to really quickly. I start it with the hotkey, and then it's just there for me, which is nice.
Nice. That reminds me that brought up something for me. So let me show you 2 things. First of all, Loom. Here's the Loom for Education, free for teachers thing. I'm going to put it in the Zoom chat. So this is how you would, let me just pop this into the chat for
Oh
everybody.
yeah, I'll
If-
put Screen Brush in there also. Good
yeah,
call.
put Screen Brush in there. And then, and we do have AI Companion running, which will create some notes for us as well. But I wanted to show you, I have, what's mine called? Cursor Pro, just, this thing. However, we don't have to have Cursor Pro. If you have a Logitech mouse, you can set your keys to certain things. So I have one key on here set for Spotlight. So you can see that hopefully you're seeing that it spotlights my screen. I believe you are. And then the other thing is the Spotlight as well as the enlarger. So I was trying to show and I clicked the wrong thing. So now you're going to see my website here. Press and hold and it stopped spotlighting. Now it's going back and forth, but maybe in this particular scene, I do not have the right thing programmed, but you can spotlight with your mouse and you can zoom in just by pressing the buttons on here. So you can program these to those different functions or use an app like Cursor Pro to highlight certain things or zoom in. And I know there's Pro Mouse is another one a lot of people in Ecamm land talk about as well. But that's also a really great tool for teaching.
That spotlight, was that a Mac function or is it a function of the mouse itself?
It's a function of the mouse itself. So Logitech, when you download Logitech, I'll try to bring it up so I can. Where is that app?
It's the Logi Options app, I think is the app.
Yeah.
Options Plus.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. And so, yep. So it's the Logitech mouse, the one that I have. I'm assuming that it would work with all of their mice that have this functionality. But when you, here we go. Let me bring it on this screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. So you can set, so this is my mouse, right? You can set, first of all, I would never recommend white. This was a mistake because it gets dirty and you can't get it clean no matter what you do. So I would definitely go with a darker color if I was going to order again in the future. But I do have my keys set for this one to be the spotlight effect and this one to be the magnify and this one to be highlight. So there are two spotlight effects, highlight and magnify. And I have my buttons set for that. But so there's the magnify and here's the spotlight. But what's weird is I was doing that before and it ended up being like the back arrow key. So I have to check to see if all my settings are correct. But you can choose what you set. So I programmed this key here to be the screen capture. So every time I just pressed it and it did a screen grab right there. Or, open up ChatGPT over here, open up the emojis tab when I click that key. So you can do little shortcuts with the mouse itself, which I find very helpful. Kind of like a few Stream Deck keys, like to quickly get to some of the things that you're going to be using when you want access to your mouse. So that triggered,
Tatiana,
that reminded me to share.
Is that working in just the app screen share mode, not desktop?
Let's see. I am sharing my screen in Ecamm, and let's see, Spotlight.
But is that screen share pulling from your browser, or is it pulling from a desktop and you're cropping it?
Pulling from my desktop, pulling the whole desktop, not
because those
not
effects
Chrome.
don't work when you do the app.
Yeah, and that's a very good point to remember. That's why I always share the entire desktop, and I just whatever. If you see a few things on the edges, we can fix it, but not the end of the world if it happens. But yes, in order for us to be able to see these things, we have to be sharing the desktop in Ecamm, not the Chrome browser or the application. Right. Like if I only share Keynote, you won't see it. So I'd have to share the entire monitor, the entire screen. Really good point, Jeremy.
I was like, did they fix that? And I didn't know about it.
I was just thinking the same thing, Jeremy.
But that would be pretty cool.
Slacking off as a moderator here if I didn't know that.
Jeremy, do you have any great combo tips or just tips in general that you want to share?
Gosh, my brain's all over the place right now. I'm preparing for this trip down to New Orleans tomorrow, and I'm going to be there for a couple of weeks, including Mardi Gras. So my head's in videography mode right now. But to go back to what Stephen was talking about with the LUTs, it's funny because I'm doing the opposite of what you said, but I'm doing it because I know how to tweak the camera to get it to where I want it. So f-stops and ISO settings, and I'm using a log output, and I'm running it through a LUT on the camera before it even gets to Ecamm. So I'm doing all that stuff. But the cool thing is with most of the cameras, which you brought up, is that if, like, Marshall does he has his LUTs that he sells that kind of go with his background. I don't know if you've ever watched any of Marshall Fox's stuff where he's doing design work, and he's got a definite color scheme in his studio that he likes to run with, and he likes to accentuate that with a LUT. So he's got his camera tuned to like the proper color settings, white balance, whatnot, but then he's enhancing it with the LUT in Ecamm rather than trying to make it look good. So like it's like a natural look. He tries to, it's kind of like applying a filter on top of things. So I think as educators, most of the time, I'm guessing most people won't want to go that route. They're going to want to look as they look. They're not going to go stylized like Snapchat-ish on and stuff. But there's definitely there's definitely two ways to go about that. And trust me, if you have a camera that has all those settings on it, and you can go down a rabbit hole. I've spent many nights till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to tweak settings on the camera. So it's not for the faint of heart, but once you do understand it and you understand your exposure curves and your white balance, you can get some really nice imagery out of a lot of the cameras. I know that the folks at Ecamm have been pushing for a lot of like the Osbot Tinies and the Tail Airs, and I don't know. I mean, how many people are running your mirrorless camera versus how many people are running webcams right now?
I normally run my camera, but I'm actually using a Tiny Air right now because I was
Okay.
running last time I jumped on the web.
Okay. Tatiana, you're
I
probably
use,
on.
I'm using an Insta360.
Okay.
And I'm using 3 different webcams. So
You're on mute, Todd.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Am I
Sorry.
there?
No wonder you
Yeah.
guys weren't answering my question.
We're just like, we're going to ignore Tatiana.
Oh, sorry, Tatiana.
She's been talking this whole time anyway.
No apology necessary. I just was like, okay, no, go ahead. Okay. Oh, well,
Yeah,
you
I was
actually
gonna. I was going to say I run 3 webcams, an Obsbot PTZ, and a face cam, Elgato Fast Cam, and a Me Too. And I just had never gotten into the DSLRs, and I didn't find all this time later that I needed them. If I did, I'd definitely buy one. But people find most of the time, I would say 99%, they go, "Oh my gosh, what kind of camera are you using?" It's like, well, let's see. I just got my Me Too. It was $120, but that doesn't mean that you obviously you have a lot of control over your mirrorless cameras and lenses and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think the division is getting bigger and bigger. A lot more people are going webcam just because the quality of webcams are getting better. I think that's just
sure.
the rationale.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many of you guys generally use a mirrorless camera, say like a Sony ZV-E10 or something along those, just in general? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us. 8 of us. And hello, Natalie. I know you're in there too. So eight of us. Feel free to put it in the chat if you can. Type a response. What kind of camera you use? And how many of you guys generally use a point tilt zoom camera like an Obspot or anything like that? Just generally. 3. Okay. And then how many of you guys use combinations of both of those things because you have multiple setups?
Yeah.
Another 3 of you. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's played with the beta, but the beta does, for the pan tilt zoom cameras, you can set up different camera preset placeholders And as you switch between those different cameras, the placeholders, it'll automatically rotate and zoom in, just like David's doing right now.
That's so cool.
So
That's
that
ridiculous.
it's just, you just have a bunch of camera placeholders, and it's recalling a preset at the same time as it's switching to that camera. So it's really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice feature.
Didn't even ask for it, but it's amazing.
They just need to put in more. I have like 12 presets at the church I do the live stream for.
Oh,
and I'm so I'm kind of capped. I still have to use Companion to switch to my presets, but but anyway, that's a really neat feature. Really neat feature. If you haven't played around with that yet, you definitely should.
And I see Ed is probably, like many people in Ecamm world, were multiple cameras for different reasons. So did we just lose? Oh no, there you are. The main camera plus the overhead shot plus some small shots. So when I started doing this, I used my old Canon 5D Mark II USB hooked up to get a better picture, but I also have the Logitech C920, and that's my backup camera. And today, for some reason, I have no idea why, but my Sony ZV-E10 just turned off. I that's never happened before, no idea why. And so I just switched to, so I always have the Logitech C920 as my backup camera. And then of course, if I ever really need to, we could also use my cell phone with camo or something like that to pop up in there. Go ahead, Ed.
I'm so curious. I'm quickly throwing my overhead shot from my, my Insta360. When I have a virtual keyboard I use sometimes, I won't bother setting it all up, but I often have a horizontal shot at the bottom of my wide physical keyboard. Then I have a virtual keyboard that is, because it's a graphic, it'll show up pure white and black for the keys, the white keys. And the Logitech Insta360 shot is kind of yellowish because the keys of a more of sort of an authentic keyboard are ivory. These aren't ivory, but they're a bit yellowish. And if I apply a LUT to that, my hands on the keyboard look oddly colored. So I can't quite figure out how I could make my virtual keyboard, my real shot of my keyboard look more like the virtual one.
Couldn't you set the white balance to the color of the keys?
I will check that. Yep.
Yeah, I was same. I would agree. White balance to make sure, and
you're cheating, but I mean, you're not cheating, but you're you're tricking the camera to think that that's white and not instead of ivory. But
exactly,
it might work.
Yeah, and you could always use a gray card too to help you with the white balance.
Okay.
To get it quite right. Otherwise, you could also be like, that's just the way it is. The students are still getting the quality content out of it. But I understand, I
absolutely.
Understand.
And I'm just thinking there are some picky people out there like me when I watch stuff. I'm like, oh, but they're not the same white, so who cares?
I think people will find things to be really interesting these days. I always look to one of my sons who's a producer and director of commercials. And he was just sharing with me this week that he just got a $600,000 to $800,000 shoot, which, by the way, are for him, he's usually in the $200,000 to $400,000 range. And the reason I mentioned that was because it's double, triple his normal size. They want him shooting on a Samsung phone. And I thought that was fascinating. They want the whole, and it's not Samsung. So let me be clear. It's not a Samsung commercial. It's a company completely unrelated to phones and whatever, but they want this $700,000 commercial shot on a Samsung phone as the primary camera. And that's when I started using Continuity Cam with my iPhone 14 Pro, which I'm going to be upgrading now to a 16 Pro. I really noticed that the quality is really quite spectacular. So I think we can not get away with, but that whole world is changing considerably, even to a point where professionals are even using phones to shoot certain things. Now there must be a reason behind it. I'm certain because he usually uses, for those of you that know, he usually uses Reds and Arri Alexas and stuff like that. But it was fascinating. It just happened to be this week, so it's pretty current.
Marquez Brownlee, who some of you probably know as a famous YouTube tech reviewer, he did a video recently about, I think if I remember correctly, it was about using more cell phones in his work. And any of you who know, he has the Red cameras, and he's got all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking to say, I don't see it right now, but it was really interesting how he talked about how he feels like this is a trend, maybe.
Well, one thing I should say to qualify, Dan, my son, mentioned to me, said, Dad, I hope you understand, we're attaching $250,000 cinematographic
Right.
lenses to the iPhone. Sorry, to the Samsung. So I just realized I almost left out a really big, important part. There's still there is a rig, and if you've seen these rigs, there are rigs where the phone goes in the rig, and you could have $500,000 worth of gear surrounding it, and the phone is what's capturing the image. But there is a way to attach, a 22-inch long lens, to your camera. So it's not entirely being shot like you or I might take out an iPhone or a Samsung and go click, click, click. So
Right.
important piece of add-on info.
Right, and let's remember that
that-
Apple is now doing they do all of their keynotes now made on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the fascinating things in terms of like the tools for Ecamm. So it's a means to an end, and it is, from my perspective, the premier video production software, whether you're going live or recording for local purposes or to upload later. And one of the things I found is that it has room for growth. So sometimes people are, we talking in the Ecamm community about, gear acquisition syndrome, gas. People think they have to have the most expensive, all the different attachments, but sometimes it's the simple things that you begin with and you grow into it. Because at least for me, where I am now, I mean, I literally had to transfer probably was over 60 gigabytes of Ecamm live recording video. After you do the recording, it goes to the local folder, and so my computer was starting to slow down quite a bit. And I just randomly started opening some of those videos that I started doing maybe 3-4 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with green screen, but green screen with poor lighting, half my eye was missing. I looked like a pirate. And I'm like, man, that stuff was really old, but I started somewhere. So for me, having the portability component is something as well, because I take I have a Insta360 in my backpack, and we have school meetings, etc. I'm not on the built-in web camera. I'm like, I have to look good and professional. I mean, look better than I would without the camera. But I just like the growth process that the Ecamm offers, that is so interchangeable with so many different tools based on your use case, that I think that's one of the more under reported components, that you can have someone with a phone, which for many people is the most expensive video equipment they're going to have, and then you grow from there. So that's, I think, one of the wonderful tools that Ecamm offers, that with all those options, it's your video production still stands apart from any other traditional sort of video production that you would normally think would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. It's about knowing how to use the tool and make them work for you in your niche.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes simple really is just best. Sometimes it's just, and we also need to be prepared to have to hop on our cell phones at any time, teaching, training, living, streaming, whatever. Sometimes it just all goes wrong no matter what you do. And you just have to be ready to go back to the basics and be okay with having that, backup plan ready to go.
And
really,
DJI
really great.
did release today a new gimbal for the iPhone, for phones in general, that has tracking built into it. Same thing, same kind of tracking software that they have in their drones. So it's got a little eye on it and stuff like that. So if you're looking for stability when you want to hold your phone, doing any kind of presentations, things like that, it's got a little built-in tripod and all this other stuff. This is not a sponsored content, but it's called it's called the Osmo, but it's not the little pocket thing. It's a gimbal attachment. Just came out today, and it's not that bad. It's pretty inexpensive, and it works great in a pinch. But if you are doing, like you guys were talking about, doing like a continuity camera, one of the things about continuity camera, I'm sure you've seen other people, they'll walk around their studio with continuity camera, and you get vertigo because things are just shaking all over the place, right? These little stabilizers work great for that. So take a look if that's something that you're interested in. I'm actually going to bring mine down with me because it folds up real nice, and they're, like I said, they're not that expensive. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Safe
I
travels, Jeremy.
use the previous generation Osmo gimbal. That's for that exact reason. It doesn't shake as much. And I'm also reminded when I started of something that was just said, that being broke generates a lot of innovation and creativity.
Yes,
and
it does.
I think that being rich, when we talk about gas, that we could just buy anything, do anything, whatever, that doesn't really change anything, because in the hands of a master, the same camera does magical things that it doesn't do for the amateur. And I follow marketing quite a bit, and the Clio Awards last year, the marketing awards, the Grand Clio, one of them went, it was a $50,000 budget that actually won the Grand Clio for advertising. A 50,000 in the world of advertising is nothing. It's irrelevant. And there were multi-million dollar productions that did not win Grand Clios, but because they had no budget, they did a single long shot and one camera, and I won't go into the details, but it was pretty amazing that they just did this shot and that they won this award. And they didn't ask them what was their budget. I just happen to know their budget was 50,000. And by the way, because I'm in Canada, 50,000 Canadian. So that's like what, 35,000 US.
It's like
So
50
every
cents
time,
US, I think.
what's that?
I think it was like 50 cents US.
Yeah, it's like nothing, exactly. But I do remember in, as soon as pandemic, I had to do a quick pivot in March of 2020, and it was like literally with a 910, Logitech 910, a ring light with the most horrible hue you could ever imagine, and God knows what was behind me, and people were like, "Oh my God, you're so innovative." And it's like, now I'm on Ecamm, and they take all this crap for granted now. That's like, oh, that's what he looks like. So yes, Ecamm has helped us come a long way, but it's always worth reminding ourselves of our humble beginnings and remind newcomers that you can just start with anything and it's going to be awesome, especially if you produce through Ecamm.
Guys,
All right,
we're coming
I
up.
got to head out, folks.
Yep, we're coming
So-
up on time here. So
Yeah.
safe travels, Jeremy. I want to just, before
Thank you.
everybody goes, how about this for next month? Here's my idea. Actually, thanks to Randall, this is my idea. What if we talk about how to create WebM files where we could combine a video, a graphic with an audio in Ecamm? Because right now that's not native to Ecamm. The sound effect is not built in. If like we want a particular graphic to show up, a sound to come up with that, the way to do that is through a WebM file. So I thought, since today we talked about highlighters and Phil brought it up and it seemed like a really cool thing, what if we had a graphic exchange where we could all share a graphic with each other? And it's, if you don't know how to do all this stuff, it's okay, don't worry, just still come and participate. But it will kind of be like, instead of a potluck with food, it would be a potluck with some type of a graphic, something that we create that we can share. We have license to share, and we'll also show how to make WebM files. How does that sound?
Like it.
Yep. Sounds good.
Awesome. Beautiful. So that will be our March, which by the way is also my birthday month. So we will celebrate my birthday. And so, yeah, we'll see everybody.
Somebody
next
make that
month.
graphic.
What'd you say?
Yeah. Well,
I
happy
said
birthday,
somebody
Ralph.
prepare that graphic.
Thank you, Randall. Absolutely. Yes, good to see everybody, and good to see some new faces and some familiar faces as well. So have a wonderful month, everybody. Please chime in Discord anytime. You have my contact information, you have David's contact information too, and feel free to connect with each other. Oh, I know, Sunny, I know you came in a little bit late and you wanted to know what links and everything that was shared. We do have AI Companion turned on, so David, if we could share the transcript and the AI summary in the resources tab, then we will have, in addition to the recording being in the YouTube channel too, Sunny. I think that will be helpful. Awesome. Have a great month, everybody.